Bob sent us this. Bob lives in Paulding, and he says, I just finished trimming my wife's Rose of Sharon bushes. He said, I probably should have called you first. but she was gone, and I only had so much time to get it done. But he says, seriously, is there a correct way to trim Rose of Sharon? They were about 6 to 8 feet tall. Now they're about 4 to 5 feet tall, and I hope I didn't make an error in judgment.
No, Bob, you didn't. As a matter of fact, you hit a good timing point because they have, of course, well, most of them have finished blooming at this point. They will not set flower buds until next year into the growth season. They're one of those that puts out the stem first and then sets the flower bud. So you hit that perfect time where you should not have deterred the flowering much. Now, because you cut off, well, roughly 4 feet, you're going to take away a lot of the flowering tissue. However, I would expect the plants were in good shape before you trimmed them. You wouldn't have had to trim them that hard, I should say. And at that point, then, they should put on a lot of growth, and I would expect them to put out a good number of flowers. Flower buds first, of course. I would recommend, in terms of Rose of Sharon, that you do not fertilize them. Every once in a while, I do recommend fertilization after a hard pruning. These guys can grow pretty rampant on their own from, let's just say, survival techniques over the eons. Now, 4-foot reduction or thereabouts is a little harsh, but I doubt that it will bother a Rose of Sharon much at all. The only thing you may not have done that would be an improvement is Rose of Sharon, like all plants, gets what I'll call old stems in it and then younger stems. You might still be able to go out if your wife leaves again and you have time. You might go out and cut a few of the old stems out so that they're not getting too compacted down in, we'll call it the crown area right near ground, or just on up a couple, 3 feet. So you maybe could have thinned a little bit more than just to do outside pruning or outside of the plant pruning. Now, if you don't have much time, you can pretty much just go after them as I would expect you maybe did. However, if you do have time, Rose of Sharon, even with all of its resilience, can appreciate being trimmed to an outside bud so that it opens out away from the center, just for sunshine, movement of air, all the good things that can happen. So you would slow down and literally watch where you're making the cut. Still at 4.5 or 5 feet's fine. A little drastic, but let's go back in a second. I would have taken out 3 feet max, and then next year take out some more. I doubt that you did any harm, but that's what I would have done. And in doing so, then, if I had time, and stories from my youth, if my mother was gone, my dad would prune, and he would be in a hurry before she'd pull back in. So you may have been in the same situation. Otherwise, prune to a bud that is on the outside of a stem so that when subsequent growth takes place in the spring, it will hopefully and mostly be those top buds that open out and go away from the middle, or growth out and then up, so that they don't get too tall and narrow, too compacted inside and so on. Rose of Sharon is not particularly fussy about that, but its nature is to be a little bit vase-shaped, starting at kind of a center of roots, stem crowns, whatever you want to call it, and then going up and out. And you'd want to keep that in mind to keep them somewhat natural looking. But still, Bob, I don't think you made any mistakes. Timing was right. You could follow up with some removal of older stems, clear through just prior to growth in the spring. Anytime now that you have time and put on your heavy jacket and gloves, you can go out and do some more pruning. But I think you were golden. Would have been okay if you'd called first, but you did no harm.